Welcome into the Paul Farrington Show. Paul, joined by Jack Weinberger and Robert Ziggy Ziegler at the University of Virginia, who's battling through Wi-Fi difficulties, and so far he's conquering them.
Knock on wood.
Early on in the show.
I have a theory about why my Wi-Fi has been so bad.
Really, you do?
A friend of mine defended his dissertation today, so shout out Evan, nice job. But I told my biggest philosophical rival at UVA, and he's a huge Saints fan, about this podcast, major Saints fan. And he said that he said something about Bountygate and getting us back for the way Sean Payton was treated. I think he might be messing with my Wi-Fi.
Do you have a philosophical rival at UVA?
Oh, Paul, I have so many rivals.
Are you serious? Wait. You have actual rivals?
Of course I have rivals.
What do you...
Oh, I have a set of controversial philosophical beliefs. People disagree with me. We form rivalries.
So is that a thing in the philosophy world, like the grad student philosophy world? Like you guys have rivals around campus?
Oh yeah, it's dangerous? Even worse with the faculty.
So
could things get like physical sometimes or not?
They get heated for sure.
Really?
Like what? In the cafeteria or where do they get heated?
Everywhere.
I'm just assuming in the philosophy building. We're
always brawling inside.
You ever see the?
Is there a chance someone like breaks into your apartment and tries to mess with you, or is that?
I think messing with my Wi-Fi is worse. They know we rely on the show for our livelihood.
True.
Is it like in South Park? Have you ever been in a battle where, remember when Cartman becomes like psychic and he just no.
I've never seen an episode of South Park.
Really? Oh, you gotta watch.
I'm not a huge South Park fan either.
They just have Cartman and the other psychics are like holding their heads, going no, trying to brain battle each other. Although I imagine Ziggy's more sophisticated than that.
I want to be a fly in the wall during one of these quarrels.
Have you raised your voice, Ziggy?
Yes, I do it all the time.
People
say stupid things. Oh, there's nothing in the intellect that didn't begin in the senses. It's like, come on, folks.
Has someone raised their voice back at you? Like, have you got into a shouting match?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
On Monday, I touched the skull of somebody who thought that.
What?
His name's Thomas Aquinas. Maybe you've heard of him.
Oh, okay. Have you ever?
I touched the skull on Monday.
Have you been in a shouting match?
Shouting match? I don't know. I've done rounds of shouting. Was it a match? I don't know.
Well, your friend who's a Saints fan, obviously, hopefully he does well with all his philosophy stuff, and he goes on to be a successful guy, but I hope he's never happy again in the world of football. Never again.
Well, I'll tell you, he's a big Pelicans fan, so he's discovering exactly how bad your star players being injured can feel.
I forget the Pelicans are a professional team.
I do quite often.
They're not.
Like quite often, I'm like, oh. Like,
and my job
Pelicans.
is NBA too.
I don't know if I could name like all the NBA teams in under like a certain amount of time. Like I would forget a few.
I bet if I gave you 3 minutes, 4 minutes, you could do it.
Unlike the Pelicans, like I'd forget about them for a while. It would take me a while to.
I like Pelicans. Good bird. All right,
I save Nemo and Dory, right?
Yeah.
Pelican.
If you're enjoying this episode, this channel, feel free to like the video, to comment below, or to subscribe to the channel. You can always listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts if you can't catch us on YouTube. And Ziggy, you looked like you were ready to interject something.
I was gonna say, if you're looking for something to comment who your biggest philosophical rival is,
or rival. If you have
rival in general.
I love arch nemesis. People having an arch nemesis.
Don't pick like a sports team or whatever. Pick like your personal.
Your personal.
Comment a name.
Isn't it
if
great?
You're Vince Mallett, comment stairs.
Yeah, comment a name or a thing.
I was thinking this the other day. It's great when you have an arch nemesis. Like obviously, maybe morally wrong, Ziggy, through philosophical debates. But
it depends.
But I think there's just something like an arch nemesis can motivate you to other levels if you have one. And I just don't have an arch nemesis.
I don't really either.
But how great is it when you're just in conversation with someone that like, yeah, my arch nemesis came into work, and it's like I'm into this story. I'm captivated.
I know. I wish I did have one. Maybe I'll get
Jack,
one.
I think your arch nemesis is our comment section.
Oh, my arch nemesis is the entire Green Bay community right now.
Yeah, one of the most ruthless onslaughts I've ever seen after Jack picked the Lions.
I'm not gonna lie though, it does bring a smile to my face. I enjoy reading each comment. I'm sitting there at work chuckling.
I don't even think you hate the Packers that much. I think you just like the Lions.
I just like the Lions in this game, yeah.
So we have the Week 14 preview today. We're going to get into game picks. We'll have Zig or Zag. A couple really big games. The slate in general doesn't have too many important games, but there's a couple in the Lions and the Packers and the Cardinals and the Seahawks that'll have massive implications for the playoffs as we move forward. But we're going to start, and I think this is kind of fun here. Every now and then with my coworker, Josh, we'll talk about what our predictions would be given the current playoff situation. And it's just fun to play some of these hypotheticals because then you start looking ahead at what matchups could be and who you like. So we figured we'd do that for a little bit to start the show today. See where we stand on the playoff field as it stands today. So in the AFC, we'll go through, share our predictions. In the AFC right now, you have the Chiefs as the 1 seed, the Bills are the 2, Steelers 3, Texans 4, Chargers 5, Ravens 6, and Broncos 7. That's probably what the field's going to be. But, like my predictions from a couple weeks ago, I stand by it. I think the Colts have a great opportunity to get to that 8 seed. The Bengals and the Dolphins are still there, but on the outside. So you're really looking at those 7 teams at the moment, and you'd have Kansas City getting the bye. Let's go through now, guys. The first round, the wild card round of the AFC, we'd have Bills, Broncos. And is there anyone who thinks the Broncos could upset Buffalo in this one? Would it be a close game?
No.
I think. Sorry, go ahead, Jack.
I thought we were gonna do project what we think our 1 through 7 is gonna be.
No, literally predicting the field.
Predicting the current field as it is.
So here are the matchups. You'd have Buffalo, Denver. You'd have Pittsburgh, Baltimore, a rematch, and Texans, Chargers. Right now, who do you guys have winning those games?
Okay, yeah. So if we just start with Bills, Broncos, I wouldn't take the Broncos to come close to Buffalo.
So you got Buffalo.
So I have Buffalo, the Steelers at home against Baltimore, and what was the other one?
Texans, Chargers in Houston.
I don't see all 3 home teams winning, so I'm gonna go the Chargers.
Go with the Chargers.
Yeah.
Okay, Ziggy, how about you?
I like Herbert indoors.
I think that the Bills will win, but I think the Broncos could keep it close. If you doubt this, note how close they've played the Chiefs, the blowout of the Falcons. Like, the Broncos have played some good football. I think they'd have a real shot at winning, but in Buffalo, I can't see it. I take the Ravens to go into Pittsburgh and avenge the loss. And I take the Chargers to beat the Texans.
Well, Zig, you're forgetting. We're going to lose to the Ravens in a couple weeks, so we'll actually be avenging a loss.
Do you guys?
You know what? You're right. Okay, I'll take the Steelers and I'll take the Chargers.
Are you serious? Are you taking the Steelers?
I'm taking whoever lost most recently to win that game.
No, that's who I would take.
No,
okay.
Jack knows. That's how AFC North football works. Whoever lost most recently probably wins.
No, we're going to lose in Baltimore in a couple weeks and then beat them in the playoffs at home.
Do you guys think, so the Texans, is everyone just out on the Texans as any sort of serious contender? It's hard to take them seriously right now.
Yeah. I don't see them on the same level as the teams who I think can win a Super Bowl in the AFC. Yeah,
especially from where we were expecting them to be at the start of the year.
I don't see them currently. If they were to play the Chargers tomorrow, I know it would be in Houston. I think the Chargers are a better team.
Tougher team for sure.
I take Justin Herbert. Especially, I like Herbert inside too.
I also think for that game,
pause.
For that game, I think it's very likely that J.K. Dobbins will be back too. I know he suffered that knee sprain, but at that point it'll be 7 weeks out, I believe. He got injured week 12, so it'll be quite a few weeks out. There's a good chance he'll be back. And I really think of J.K. Dobbins, that Chargers offense looks a lot different and a lot better. So yeah, I think the Texans have had a good season, but I haven't been super impressed, and the injuries are starting to pile up. I'd take the Chargers to win that game.
So, okay, and given as it stands now, Ziggy, though, you would take the Ravens to beat the Steelers, like literally if they started today. Okay. I'm gonna, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go.
We know. Baltimore will beat us, and then we'll get them back.
I'm gonna view it as things stand right now, because that is what's going on. So I'll have the Ravens over the Steelers. I'll have the Bills over the Broncos, and I know better than to pick Baltimore. But in the playoffs, I was there when they went in and with you. Remember that game in Pittsburgh when they went in and won that game?
Yes.
And then I'm gonna also go Chargers. So, all right, second round of the playoffs. Jack, you have Bills, Steelers, Chargers, Chiefs.
So I got Pittsburgh in Buffalo, right?
Pittsburgh in Buffalo, and the Chargers in Kansas City.
So I have the Bills and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship.
Okay. All right. So your Steelers' dream season.
Buffalo lost at home in the playoffs last year. To me, I I see Buffalo getting home field and going to the Super Bowl this year.
Well, hey, this is as it stands. It would be in Kansas City.
Sure, you're right. You're right.
All right, Ziggy, how about you? What's your AFC
my
championship?
prediction is Buffalo's the one, but I'll predict based on this.
Once again, exactly the same as Jack. Bills Chiefs.
So I'd have the Ravens at the Chiefs and the Chargers at the Bills. And I think the Bills beat the Chargers. I just don't think the Chargers are on that same level come playoff time. And then Ravens into Kansas City. That would be a lot of fun. But in Kansas City, I got to go Chiefs. All right, so we all have Bills Chiefs. So it's kind of boring, isn't it? Who you guys have going to Super Bowl?
I mean, in this case, I would take Kansas City because I do truly believe.
So if after all this riffraff from you this entire year on the Chiefs,
I don't think they're getting the 1 seed.
Okay.
I think they will lose on the road in the playoffs. Like, I don't believe they're getting the number 1 seed. But if they're the number 1 seed, considering all the spooky crap that tends to go on there, especially in the playoffs, I'd take Kansas City to win.
Ziggy, would you do the same?
I think the Bills will go into Kansas City and win. I think they've lost there enough times. I know everybody says the Bills win the regular season, the Chiefs win in the playoffs. But I think this Bills team is different. And more important, I think this Kansas City team is different. I do not think this is the same Chiefs team we've seen in years past. And I'm not convinced that they'll be able to turn it to the level you need to keep up with Buffalo in the playoffs. I'm taking the Bills.
Okay. The Bills are my pick to go to the Super Bowl.
The Bills have been awesome.
Like, I don't think it'll be Bills at Chiefs.
I think it will be in Kansas City, and I think the Chiefs will win and get back to the Super Bowl. So we got 2 Chiefs, 1 Buffalo. Let's go over to the NFC. The Lions are the 1 seed. You'd have the 2nd-seeded Eagles playing the 7th-seeded Commanders, a little division rivalry game. Seahawks hosting the Packers, and the Falcons hosting the Vikings. Who you got winning those, Jack?
I have the Seahawks blowing out the Packers. I have the...
Do you actually?
I know the Seahawks winning close.
Okay.
In Seattle, tough place to play. I have the Eagles blowing out the Commanders. And then, what was it, Minnesota at Atlanta?
Minnesota at Atlanta.
Oh, then yeah, Kirk gets his revenge.
See you, Falcons.
So I have all 3 home teams. I have Falcons, Seahawks, and...
All right, so you have all the division winners. Ziggy?
Yes.
I've got Packers, Vikings, Eagles.
The
NFC North has been so good. They're 27-3 against teams in other divisions. They've been unstoppable. The only thing it seems they can stop NFC North teams, other than the Philadelphia Eagles, are other NFC North teams. I don't think that the Falcons or the Seahawks are up to the task. No disrespect to the Seahawks. It's moderate disrespect to the Falcons.
I don't know. They'll be home dogs in the playoffs.
So here's how we tie it into Week 14. Watch this. This is how the show is excellently produced here. The Vikings and Falcons play this week in Minnesota. I've said this multiple times throughout the season. I think the Vikings defense is built very, very well to play Kirk Cousins specifically. And why is that? Doesn't really move. With the way Brian Flores sends pressure. Now, the thing is, if it's like the Rams game where the Vikings were sending the house and couldn't get anybody to Matthew Stafford, yeah, Kirk Cousins is good enough to pick you apart. But that game seems like it was more of an anomaly than a standard for this Viking defense moving forward. So I think that this week, in Week 14, and in a hypothetical playoff matchup, the Vikings would be able to get to Kirk enough. We just saw the 4-turnover game he had last week. I think Minnesota matches up really well with Atlanta. Obviously, there's a little bias here, but I do think they match up well. So I'd have the Vikings. I would have the Eagles beating the Commanders convincingly, and the Packers going to Seattle. That's going to be a tough game for whoever wins going into the NFC West. And I think Seattle might actually be the toughest place to go into out of LA, Arizona, and I'm just going to eliminate the 49ers. I think Seattle's the one that you don't want to go to.
100%.
So that's a tough game.
It's a night game, too.
I do think, though, that the Packers are just a better football team than Seattle. Though the Seahawks, and we're going to talk about them more in a second, their defense is trending ridiculously up right now, as is Arizona. So that's something to pay attention to. If they maintain that, you might have to look at this game differently. I do think, though, that Green Bay would win that game. So, all right, second round. Jack, you have the only differences here. The Lions and the Falcons, the Eagles and the Seahawks.
I mean...
Is that even...
Yeah, I have Lions, Eagles.
All right, Jack has Lions, Eagles, and Detroit. And why don't you just tell us who you have going to the Super Bowl?
Lions.
Eagles, Lions, and the Lions in the Super Bowl.
I think the Lions won't lose again the rest of the year.
And Ziggy, what do you have? Take us to the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, I can't pick against the Eagles. I can't pick against the Lions. So they're going to the championship game. My position is I think whoever hosts this game is going to win. And I think Philly is going to sneak up and snag that 1 seed. But we're making predictions as they stand right now. So I'm taking Detroit at home.
Detroit at home to go to the Super Bowl. Okay. Vikings, Eagles. Jeez,
Now we've seen that movie before.
Yeah, I know. I actually think...
what am I supposed to say, Paul? You know what I want to say, but what am I supposed to say?
I know.
That'll be like a pick 'em till it'll be 34-10.
This is Packers, Lions. The Detroit injuries are really hard to overlook right now, but the Lions are probably the right pick in this game.
The Lions will go to the Super Bowl.
I think the Lions are the right pick, but Green Bay, that's the matchup. I think that's the worst for Detroit is Green Bay. If Green Bay's clicking, and I'm going to go with Detroit barely, and then they'd beat the Eagles at home. So we all have the Lions in the Super Bowl. Lions, Chiefs for me and Ziggy. Lions, Bills for you, Jack. Who do you have winning?
Whoa, I took Buffalo.
I had Lions.
Oh, Lions, Chiefs. Sorry, for me and you, Jack.
Just the way we were picking based on how it stands. I got the Lions.
The Lions, Ziggy?
It's tough to pick against this Detroit team, but I really feel like there's something special about this Bills team. I'm taking the better quarterback. I'm taking Josh Allen and the Bills.
Detroit versus Kansas City. Kansas City's been skating by all year. Detroit's been dominant.
But if Kansas City's making it there, it means they haven't just skated by. It means they've beaten some pretty good teams.
Yep. I would go Kansas City for the 3-peat.
What I think could happen is the Lions host Buffalo in a week, I believe, right? Or 2 weeks?
Next week, yeah.
Next week. I could see Detroit beating Buffalo at home. And then I wouldn't want to be Detroit playing Buffalo again in the Super Bowl. Like, I could see Buffalo getting them back there. Like, the only team to me who will beat the Lions in the Super Bowl potentially would be the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the Chiefs or the Ravens or the Steelers doing so. It would only be the Bills in my eyes to beat them.
Yeah, so Detroit, who do you think is the biggest? All right, so as far as the Super Bowl goes, Ziggy, you have the Bills, I have the Chiefs. Jack, you have the Lions. Do you think the biggest threat to the Detroit along this entire journey is? You say Buffalo?
I'd say in the Super Bowl.
Buffalo would be Buffalo in the Super Bowl.
Buffalo, yes.
Okay. And Ziggy, you would agree with him?
Yeah, I think that this Buffalo team, they don't have the best offense in the NFL, but they've got the second or third best, and they have a much better defense than Baltimore does. I'm willing to take that combined with the fact they've gotten so close so many times. They have the experience, they have the motivation. I think this is going to be a scary matchup for anyone in the playoffs.
Especially, too, because let's say if the Lions do beat them once, I find it really, really hard to get Buffalo back again a second time.
Man, you know what? I actually think I might go Philadelphia. The more I'm thinking about Detroit versus Philadelphia, I think I might go Philly.
In Detroit?
In Detroit, I think I think Detroit's awesome. And people think I hate the Lions because of what I used to say on the power rankings of having the Chiefs ahead of them. And because they're a division rival. I think they're awesome. Really fun to watch. Great personalities across the board. Philadelphia with AJ, I think they have better weapons. Like Saquon, AJ Brown, Devontae. Detroit's got great ones. And then the Philly defense is much healthier.
I mean, Detroit, if they get back to the NFC chip at home after blowing it last year, I'd be floored if they lost.
I might go Philly to get to the Super Bowl and lose to the Chiefs.
That's a stupid pick.
Here's though the thing that I wanted to real quickly talk about, because obviously we have a ton of Packers fans who listen to this show. Green Bay going into Detroit in the playoffs. That seems like it's a likely situation at this point in time. If they're able to win a playoff game, that they'll then go and play the one-seeded Lions or one-seeded Eagles in a rematch. And I think Packer fans actually would have a reason to feel confident in that game. Not that super confident, but they're a very good team, great offense. And if there was any team in the NFC to go in there and challenge the Lions or the Eagles on their home field, I think Green Bay is probably the best choice to do it. But of course, Packer fans would rather host that game in Lambeau Field with their cheese heads on, going crazy. And I was trying to think today, like, okay, I know the path for the Vikings to get the 1 seed. I know the path for the Eagles to get the 1 seed. Is there a path for the Packers to get the 1 seed? And straight up, it's going to be really tough for them. I like a lot of Packers fans I've talked to lately are talking about beating Detroit in this game and how that puts them back in the division race. And it does put you in it, but you still need a lot to go right because the division tiebreakers, they go head-to-head first, so you'd be split with Detroit. Then it goes division record, which the Lions are 3-0 right now. The Vikings are 2-1. The Packers are 1-2. Then it goes to common games. So when it comes down to it, the Packers would lose any tiebreaker really to the Lions, essentially. So they'll need Detroit to lose 3 of their next 5 to win the NFC North, and the Vikings to also lose a few games.
Yeah, but that on its own doesn't get you the 1 seed either.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They need Philadelphia, and Philadelphia's got that tiebreaker combined with a cupcake rest of schedule.
Yeah, so you have, that's the other thing. So to win the division, you need the Lions to lose 3 of the 5 first, and it starts with a loss against the Packers tomorrow night, or tonight, Thursday night. Then Buffalo, you probably need that one. And then they have at Chicago, at San Fran versus the Vikings. It's possible.
I mean, at San Fran, you never know.
Oh, and at Chicago, too, you don't really.
No, you know.
Chicago's giving people fits the past few weeks.
The Lions won't lose to the Bears.
So it's unlikely. The Packers would also have to win out going to Detroit, at Seattle versus the Saints, at the Vikings, and versus the Bears. Very unlikely that you see a Packer home playoff game this year. Even more unlikely a 1 because Philly, you mentioned it, Ziggy, Carolina, the Steelers at home, Washington, Cowboys, and Giants. They're probably going to get the 1.
With a game lead already.
With a game lead already. So it's unlikely that you do see the Packers host a playoff game. But at the same time, I kind of think that like Green Bay, if they went to, let's say, Arizona and then Detroit, I think they like playing inside. I think they actually might prefer to be indoors rather than outside. Obviously, you want to be at home.
Yeah, what?
I think this Packers team is built for indoors more than outdoors.
So you're saying you'd rather go on the road than host at Lambeau Field?
No, I would much rather be at Lambeau Field. I'm saying that, like, as a consolation, if you have to, like, I would rather, if I were a Packer fan, go to Detroit than go to Philly.
People are coming at me for some dumb takes. That's horrendous.
No, I'm not saying that I'd rather go on the road than host a playoff game. But I'm saying if you're not going to be able to host, going to these indoor stadiums, like potentially Atlanta, potentially Arizona, potentially Detroit, like, that's not a terrible consolation for the Packers.
Yeah, I'd prefer that than the place like Philly, of course.
Yeah. Philly, because Philly's going to be great.
I mean, there's every team that in the NFC that Green Bay will go up against in their potential path to a Super Bowl, Green Bay can beat. I mean, they're most likely a favorite against everybody besides Detroit or Philly.
And Philly, yeah.
Right? Yeah, so if I'm a team hosting...
I don't think they'd be... I'm not sure they'd be favored.
Maybe not on the road in the playoff
anywhere,
game.
Yeah,
but
on a neutral field, yes.
Yeah, but
they'll be favored at Atlanta. They'll be I think they'll be favored at Arizona. I think they might even be favored at Seattle.
I think Seattle they'd be like a 1.5 point dog, something like that.
I like a pick 'em, yeah.
Yeah,
they're 1 point favorites at Seattle right now.
Oh, are they currently?
Next week, they're 1 point favorites going to Seattle.
Then I stand corrected. I stand corrected. And yeah, they would be favored in essentially every game except maybe at Minnesota, at Philly, at Detroit.
I mean, yeah, if I'm one of those teams potentially hosting that first round game, I don't want to see Green Bay. Like,
I'd rather see any other wild card team than Green Bay.
I mean, I'll pick. If they're a road favorite, I will pick against them hard.
Who's the most dangerous wild card team of all of them in the field right now? The Chargers, Ravens, Broncos, Vikings, Packers, Commanders.
I'd probably go Baltimore, just because I think the ceiling with them, what Lamar can do, they can obviously beat anybody on their schedule, anybody they deal with. I'd probably say Baltimore.
I mean, I'd lean Baltimore too, but then Green Bay would probably be 2.
Yeah, Green Bay would probably be 2.
Assuming all of those teams stay as wild card teams, which is not a guarantee, I'm most scared of the Packers for the following reason. The Ravens definitely have the scarier offense. They've got Lamar, as you said, but this defense is so bad that I don't think it's going to be able to hold up through the playoffs.
Although I guess you called it this year.
The Packers are riskier. There's no doubt about it. Their floor is lower than Baltimore. But if everything clicks for this team, if Jordan Love can play lights out, he can play close to his goal, especially of all the weapons they've got. The Ravens can't even get all their wide receivers to take the field. So right? They just suspend Deontay Johnson because he doesn't want to play. The defense, when it's at its best or even if it's above average, is much better than what Baltimore's got. I'm more scared of the Packers ceiling than the Ravens ceiling. So I'm more scared of the Packers.
I might agree with that statement about, like, I do think there's a better chance the Packers would get to the Super Bowl than Baltimore does if they're both currently, if the season ended right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, that 6th seed in the AFC is like, you got to go to Pittsburgh, then to Buffalo, then to Kansas City. Like Baltimore wouldn't be.
That's a much harder record.
I don't know if they wouldn't get past Pittsburgh, and if they do, they got to go Buffalo and then Kansas City. Forget it. The Packers is much more winnable.
It's a fun year in the NFL where a few of the wild card teams, I think most people would agree, are better than the division winners. And that's going to make for really entertaining first round games, especially where you have the home field advantage, but you just have more talented teams going on the road. And then what makes it even more exciting is that because that's the case, you're going to have these division matchups as well in the next round, especially in the NFC. Like you'll probably get the Vikings or Packers going to Detroit. And these are teams that will be playing for the third time. Like, that'll be super exciting. You'll have the Chargers potentially going to Kansas City a third time they're playing. And I think everyone will probably still pick the favorites in those games, the 1 seeds. But a third time playing a team, you never know what's going to happen. And that's going to be a lot of fun with the playoffs this year. So so that was kind of fun. Why don't we jump into more of the Week 14 stuff here? We talked about the Seahawks would be hosting the Packers. Well, that NFC West spot has been up for grabs all season. These teams are just trading punches. And Seattle goes to Arizona this week in a pivotal game. The Seahawks have a 1-game lead on the division right now. They met up a couple weeks ago in Seattle. The Seahawks won that game 16-6. There was the huge Kobe Bryant pick 6 of Kyler on 4th and 1 in the third quarter that really kind of turned the game on its heels. Only one offensive touchdown was scored in that game because I think Seattle missed the extra point, but I'm not totally positive on that. So this one here, we talked about our predictions for the rest of the year a few shows ago. And I just said, whoever wins this game, in my opinion, will be winning the NFC West. So
good.
Yeah, I know. So before I ramble on about my thoughts on it, Ziggy, why don't we head over to you? Going to Arizona, this is a team that you've been high on all season long. Do you think that they're able to overcome the offensive struggles they had against Seattle a couple weeks ago and get a big win to put them at, I believe the number would be over 60% likelihood of making the playoffs if you're playing the numbers game?
Yeah, well, I certainly understand why you say if the Cardinals win this game they're in, because their next 2 games are hosting the Patriots and at Carolina. They finished that off with winnable at Los Angeles and hosting the 49ers. So yeah, if they win this game, they go up to 7-6. They get the tiebreaker over Seattle. They've got the easier schedule. I believe they get the tiebreaker, assuming they're able to win out and close those NFC West games. Like things would look good for Arizona. If the Seahawks win, the division's 100% over. If Arizona wins, they're likely, but it's not for sure. The bigger question, as you say, is are they able to win? And I think if you're a Cardinals fan, even though things weren't perfect last week, I think you have to. I just clicked and turned my camera off. I'm a big, dumb, stupid idiot. You have to be happy with how the Cardinals played in Minnesota last week on offense. Not happy because it wasn't good enough to get there. Not happy because it was a perfect performance. But against one of the best defenses in the NFL, the Cardinals offense looked solid. Kyler, I know he had a couple interceptions. I know one of them was particularly bad, but they were able to move the ball in a Minnesota defense and were almost good enough to win against a Minnesota team on the road that's been really hard to beat. It certainly was much, much better than what you saw against the Seahawks, right? Where they couldn't do anything. Trey Benson led them in rushing with 18 yards. It was a disaster game for Arizona. So after rebounding against the Vikings, taking a really brutal loss, I think this team is going to respond to not how they looked at the end of the game by being absolutely crushed and defeated, but I think they're going to come back and avenge their loss at home. I think this is a great spot for Arizona and their offense.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm sorry if I sound exhausted, I just had I had tryouts for basketball this week, so it's kind of catching up to me a little bit.
So you tried out. That's why you're exhausted.
I'm doing my best here. No, I had to cut 16 kids.
That's tough.
That does sound emotionally exhausting. Telling kids you're not good enough. Go home, bozo.
Like I watched 16 kids, Ziggy. I watched 16 kids.
Go home, bozo.
I watched 16, 7th, and 8th grade kids crying walking out the gym today. I'm like, oh man, I feel like the devil.
Get the fuck out of here.
And then in my head, I'm like, all right, when are the parent emails coming tomorrow, the next day? It was emotional.
How dare you cut
2
my
words.
son?
Get good.
Get GG.
Well, that's what I feel like saying. It's like, oh, why didn't Timmy make it? Well, because he can't dribble or pass or shoot or run, or he stinks.
Can he rebound?
That's what I feel like saying.
Can he rebound?
Can't rebound. Like, he can't do anything. All his friends made it. Yeah, well, they can play.
Did you have them when we were in middle school, Ziggy? We all would try out, and everyone would get the envelope, and then they were like, "All right, you can open them." We'd all open them at once, so everybody.
That's what I do.
Wait, you do that? You don't
do the envelope.
No,
Yes.
no, but you don't. You're like, hey, have a good one, and then they open it, right? You're not.
No, they open it in front of me.
Oh, that's horrendous. That's horrendous.
I tell them too. I'm like, guys,
What's
wait
wrong with you?
No, I say, I'm like, guys, please wait till you get home. If you made the team, practice is Monday. If you didn't, keep your head up. Don't let it get you down. My apologies. They don't listen to me. They all open it right there and then. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's brutal. That's brutal.
So like,
all right, back to the game.
Yeah, back to the game.
But I'm staring at kids opening a letter, reading no, and I'm just like, this is just brutal. So that's my spiel on why I'm exhausted. But I'll wake up as the weeks go on.
And you're saying it's going to be brutal for Arizona when they open their envelope and are told no?
I think it'll be brutal for Seattle in Arizona. I think Arizona's in a great spot. I think they got a big time sour taste in their mouth. Losing in Seattle a couple of weeks back in what was a huge game. And then blowing a big lead in Minnesota again on the road and losing by a point. Now they return back to the friendly confines of the dome here. I believe they've won their last 3 games in that dome. And it's a chance for revenge. I do not think Seattle is really all that good. I think they've been playing better. Their defense has been playing better. Look at Seattle, though. The Jets were blowing them out. This is a team who had a big win against the Cardinals, flew across the country, beat the Jets in a game they probably shouldn't have, fly back across the country, and go back on the road against a team who is in your division, who you just beat. I think it's a great spot for Arizona. I like Arizona a lot in this game to bounce back at home.
Yeah, I can't get a great read right now to say either team will. I'm very comfortable
put on your
in
reading
picking
glasses.
either
It
team.
might help.
Yeah, I can't say I'm really comfortable picking either team right now. But what I do look at, we talk about DK Metcalf, Geno, Kyler. The offenses have a lot of star players. The 2 defenses, though, prior to Week 9, were getting gashed on the ground, just horrendous.
Did you still say Geno Smith as a star player?
Notable. That would have been a better word. The notable players.
Okay, he is not a star. Kyler Murray is a star. Geno is not a star.
Sure, my bad. The notable players for these teams come on the offensive side.
It's all right. I get what you're saying.
They were getting gashed. The Cardinals were 30th in rushing defense, or the Seahawks were 30th in rushing defense. The Cardinals were 26th. From Week 9 on, the turnaround is crazy. The Cardinals, a league best 70.3 rushing yards allowed per game. Seattle, right behind them, number 2, 84.3. Fewest points allowed in the NFL goes to the Cardinals. Second fewest passing yards to the Cardinals. Seattle, right behind them, second fewest points, 8th fewest passing yards. So we're talking about 2 defenses that have completely flipped the script from where they were just a couple weeks ago. For Arizona, they've been dialing up the heat. They're pressuring quarterbacks. And you saw Sam Darnold this past weekend, Ziggy. We were talking in the reaction. Took a lot of sacks, a lot of really bad sacks. He was under pressure a lot of that game. Seattle, you had the Ernest Jones trade a few weeks ago. Leonard Williams had the pick 6. He's elevated his play to one of the best in the league on the defensive side of the ball. So points are going to be hard to come by in this game. I am expecting that. I don't think either team's going to light the other one up. You saw the 16-6 game, I said, 1 offensive touchdown combined. It's going to come down to which quarterback makes the mistake to me. And in the first game, it was Kyler. He had the pick 6. Both these quarterbacks have been turning the ball over recently. Kyler, 3 picks his last 2 games. Geno, second in the league with 12 interceptions. I'm leaning towards the Cardinals because I trust Kyler Murray more. And it might not be a pick six the way it was in the first game, but Geno's had a little more troubles holding on to the football this year. And in Arizona, if they're dialing up the pressure, they have 19 sacks since week 9. That's the most in the league. They're able to get to Geno, make him make a mistake. That's where I think it shifts to Arizona. Trusting Kyler a little more, expecting Geno to get pressured and make that one big mistake.
Yeah, I mean, you look at last week in MetLife, the Seahawks are down 21-7, and what Rodgers threw a 90-yard pick six.
Game's over if he hits Garrett Wilson the play before.
Yeah, I think that Arizona, off back-to-back losses on the road, comes home, their foot's on the gas early. Kyler's playing well. And if it's another case where Arizona gets up now by multiple scores, like the Jets did last week, they're not blowing that.
And Geno, who's banged up? DK Metcalf's a little banged up right now, your star receiver. So, one question for you, though, Ziggy. You said if Seattle wins, you're wrapping up the division. Are you sure that's the case? With the Vikings still head to Seattle, the Packers go to Seattle. The Seahawks have a tough schedule to end the year.
If the Seahawks win, they have a 3-game lead.
In the loss column?
They have a 2-game lead in the loss column, and they have the tiebreaker because they're 2-0.
The tiebreaker.
So no, it's the Seahawks would realistically have to win one of their last 4.
One of the last 4.
They might even be able to get away with losing all 4.
Yeah, nope, you're right. I forgot about the tiebreaker right there between the two of them.
Like you were saying too before, Paul, I feel like a team like Green Bay, potential wild card team, is rooting for Arizona in a game like this.
We saw what Green Bay did to Arizona.
Yeah. Also, too, there is that factor for Green Bay being a team who is scary indoors. Like they'd rather go to Arizona than Seattle. Like I do get what you were saying.
No, I think Arizona's a better team, but I'd much rather play. Or I think, yeah, but I'd much rather play at Seattle, or I'd much rather play at Arizona than at Seattle.
Same. No,
yep.
Yeah.
I think
too.
we're all aligned there across the board.
Yeah.
I love how Ziggy's still speaking. We can still hear him, but
it's all that matters. It's all that matters.
Hey, I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best here. Like you said, the Saints fan is he's starting DDoSing me again.
All right, so let's.
Your mouth moving while you talk is overrated anyway.
So Ziggy, do you have some Zigger Zag for us this week?
Oh, I've got some Zigger Zag.
Yeah. All right, let's hear it.
So Zigger Zag took a little bit of a break after a little bit of a tough week. I'll be honest, Zigger Zag has really been a Zigger Zag segment. It's been up, it's been down. We've sort of been all over the place. We're starting off with an easy one. I want to get something in the win column as soon as possible. And what does that mean? That means we got to go to the first game of the week. Now, what's the first game of the week? Well, of course, it's Detroit hosting the Green Bay Packers. Now, what's going to happen this game? I can't say I know a whole lot about it. I think it's going to be tough. I think both teams are going to be duking it out. But here's one thing I do think. I think that Josh Jacobs is going to get fat. I think that the way Green Bay is approaching this game, I don't think they're looking to beat Detroit by having Jordan Love do everything. I think he's going to do a lot. But if you want to beat Detroit, one thing you have to do is be able to control the clock. Good news for Green Bay. They've got a running back who can do that in Josh Jacobs. So you're telling me that Josh Jacobs on the rushing attempts is only 16.5? They're going to feed that man. That man is going to get his touches. Give me over Josh Jacobs 16.5 touches. Are they going to be good? I have no idea. Is he going to be efficient? I have no idea. This Detroit run defense is great, but he's going to get the ball.
Well, I
try to come up with a new category every week to throw in Zigger Zag. I don't think we've done rushing attempts yet.
Yeah, I'm kind of laughing at that. I like that. It's tough to zag that. But
I mean, where else do you get that?
I mean, life is too short to bet the under, but I'm gonna zag and bet the under only because my prediction in this game was 31-13 Lions. So I think they get off to such a big lead early. Green Bay advantages the run, and Jacobs goes under that total.
So Josh Jacobs has had under 16.5 carries since week 2, since the Viking game, in 2 games. Against the Texans, he had 12, and against the Lions, he had 13 in that game where that was just a disaster. I think it's a great bet to get 16. I'd go over too.
I just think it's like 21 zip Lions before you blink, and then Green Bay has to abandon the run.
Matt LaFleur, and that, look, if that's the case, so be it. But Matt LaFleur has not shied away from giving the ball to Josh Jacobs. You didn't see the same thing with Aaron Jones, but that was the whole point of moving from Aaron Jones to Josh Jacobs, get a little younger, you get a little fresher, and let this guy take you to the promised land. So I think that Josh Jacobs is going to be heavily relied on in this game. I don't know if I want to say he's the heart and soul of the offense, because I do think that the passing attack is what takes them to that next level. But Josh Jacobs is the foundation, I would say, of the Green Bay offense right now. But Jordan Love being good is what makes them a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Like, you can get away with Josh Jacobs having some big games on the ground, but when Jordan Love's slinging it, that's what makes them the scary team. And, most teams are like that, except maybe Baltimore and actually Detroit to a degree with Gibbs and Montgomery on the ground. But I like it, Ziggy, over 16.5.
Next one. We're going this time to a game that is honestly, in a lot of ways, not super exciting. The New York Jets are traveling to Miami to play. And there's one player in the Dolphins that's always flummoxed me, Devon Achane. Why is that flummoxed me? Well, here's the thing about Achane, right? He's going to get hits because the Dolphins need him, but you never know if it's going to be receiving or rushing, right?
Following.
Right? Oh,
Yeah.
I think I cut out there.
You kind of did.
With Devon Achane,
with
Devon Achane, here's the thing: you never know if it's going to be receiving or rushing, right? It's impossible to know, but you know he's going to get yards. Well, good news: there's a category: rushing yards plus receiving yards, and Devon Achane is a juicy 94.5 receiving and rushing yards. Life's too short to bet the under. We're going Devon Achane over 94.5 receiving plus rushing yards.
Yeah, I mean,
against the Jets, Jets defense. Come on.
Yeah, I'm gonna zig that. The Jets are a dead team. Dolphins are at home, especially off a primetime blowout too. Dolphins score a lot of points this week. Achane's a nice little weapon out of that backfield. I think he goes over 100 total yards, Ziggy. So I'm gonna zig.
Man, I would like to zig this one, and I think it'll come down. Like, rushing wise, I'm kind of expecting him to be around the 50 number. I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna zag on this one. I think that the Dolphins, I'm just out on believing in them for really anything. The Jets aren't very good. Like, this is gonna be one of those games I turn on. I feel like it's gonna be like 17-13. Jalen Waddle will probably have a touchdown on like a slant, and I'm just not interested in getting involved with this. So I'm going under.
Well, I'm zigging.
Yeah, sorry, I'm zagging. It is in Miami, though. I will say that bodes well for the bet compared to cold New York.
I wish the number wouldn't be as high if it was in New York.
Yeah.
I've got one more, and Jack is going to love this one. So I want you to travel back in time a little bit to October 6th and October 13th. What happened? Caleb Williams put together the two best games of his young budding career. He did well against the Panthers and he did well against the Jaguars. Then what happened? They went on the road to Washington, and Caleb Williams had one of the worst games of his career. Well, what happened the past 2 weeks? Young budding Caleb Williams had two of the best games of his career. He went to he played the Vikings, did a nice job, had a great game. Played the Lions, did a nice job, had a great game. And now he's going on the road to San Francisco. The 49ers are only 4-point favorites. And it is hard for me to believe that Caleb Williams, yes, the same Caleb Williams Bears fans were thinking and teammates were saying should be benched just a few weeks ago, is going to put together 3 great weeks in a row. I love the 49ers here. I think they're PO'd. I think even with Christian McCaffrey out, they want to play. Honestly, Christian McCaffrey being out might be a good thing for this team because Jordan Mason has played better since McCaffrey came back from injury. And now Shanahan doesn't have to worry about it. I'm taking the 49ers at home, the illustrious 425 spot as 4-point favorites.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love that.
Well, one thing I want to... Mason's out too. Does that change your opinion? He just went to
I don't
IR.
care who goes in. It'll be better than Christian McCaffrey.
Okay. San Francisco, and one side of the coin is I think a lot of people will say, oh, they might be done and just out of it right now at this point. I do believe they have to take their anger out on somebody after back-to-back blowout losses on the road. And then McCaffrey getting hurt.
The Bears are the perfect team.
And the Bears are in a bad spot this week. San Fran wins this game at 38-10. 38-3. I love that pick.
The only thing that gives me pause is the Bears might get the fired head coach effect and play out of their minds, but I don't think so.
I think San Fran was out of their minds. That's my favorite pick of yours, Ziggy. I'm going to zig that completely.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go 38-10, but I was looking to at that game.
-4 is ridiculous.
I was thinking San Fran in this one feels like. And hey, if Chicago wins in San Fran, then like that's the one where I'm saying, all right, San Francisco.
This would be an impressive win from them for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a nice win. Even with the struggles and the injuries San Francisco has, still a nice win for the Bears to pick up and a confidence booster. I mean, they've been frisky. They really have been the past few weeks. Dating back to the Hail Mary against Washington, they've been in every game.
Oh, if Caleb wins in San Fran, I'll take him out on a date. I'll take him out on a nice little date.
I like it too. I think San Francisco wins. I don't think it's a blowout, but I feel comfortable with that. So, all right. So we're zigging on San Fran. Jack is zigging. I'm zagging on Achane over 94.5 rushing and receiving yards. And then where else do you get it but here? Josh Jacobs, 16.5 rushing attempts. We're both zigging. No,
I zagged.
No, Jack zagged.
I think it'll be a Lions
because the Lions will be blowing out.
The run gets abandoned.
All right, let's get into
our
our
game. All I'm
game.
saying is the Lions game last time went about as bad as it could, and he got 13 touches. I'm just asking for 4 more. Just 4.
This game will be a lot better. The Jordan Love injury looms so large.
I think this game's going to be worse. That game was in Green Bay, too.
Speaking of which, game picks. The Packers go to Detroit. Detroit 3.5-point favorites. Has anyone changed their tune from the preview show?
No, I got the Lions.
You don't get me saying this very often, but the Vikings need this. Go, Pack, go. Packers going to Detroit and win.
The Packers do need this, and I actually am changing my tune.
The Lions feel like a dog in this game.
I'm actually changing my tune as well. I'm getting the weird feeling, so I'm actually going to flip my pick from the Lions-Packers preview, and I'm going to go with Green Bay in this one.
I love the Lions.
So Jair Alexander is out. So is Corey Ballentine. Like they have Romeo Doubs is out, Edrin Cooper's out, but Detroit, the injuries as well to the defensive line. Taylor Decker's out. I mean, the injuries are bad on both sides of the ball, but I'm gonna go with Green Bay. I'm just starting to get that feeling.
The Lions took an underdog in this game.
They do. Which is
fantastic.
The Raiders go to the Buccaneers. Tampa, a 6.5-point favorite.
Bucks.
The future NFC West South champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers will win. The Browns go to the Steelers.
By so many points. So.
I'm taking the Browns to cover because it's an AFC North football, but the Steelers win.
What's the line?
Steelers are 6.5-point favorites. I got Pittsburgh winning this one. I think they make up for that loss last week.
Yeah.
In Pittsburgh, Jameis has a few more turnovers. That'll be it. Remember the last game was in the snow.
A few more turnovers.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, a few more from what do you have? 3 on
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about last week's game.
No. I mean, he has some more. In Pittsburgh, when you're in the snow, weird things happen too.
On the road in the snow, strange things happen.
Yes.
We're going to get them back.
So I got Pittsburgh. Jacksonville goes to Tennessee. Tennessee by 3.5. I'm assuming we're all going Titans on this one.
God. Just whoever's at home.
I'm taking the Jags.
Really? Okay. With Mac?
I think the Jags want to avenge Trevor Lawrence. The Titans with who?
I mean, it's Levis, right?
I think Mac Jones is a better quarterback than Will Levis.
I mean, look, I'm not trying to defend either. I don't think either of these teams are very good.
I do like the playing for T-Law factor in this game. You know, maybe I'll go the Jags also. I'll go the Jags.
I guess they're playing for him.
Of course they are. And the Titans are so bad.
Well, I'm still going with the Titans. I'm not betting on the Jaguars. The Panthers at the Eagles. Eagles are 12.5-point favorites. Next, the Falcons at the Vikings. Vikings 5.5-point favorites.
Vikings.
Thank you. Skull.
What happened to Kirk Cousins' revenge angle?
Oh, that's in the playoffs.
He'll get it. The Vikings win the battle. Cousins wins the war.
The Jets go to the Dolphins. Miami's a 6.5-point favorite. A huge Achane game, apparently, I'm hearing.
Oh, yeah. Achane, 120 total yards. Dolphins win 27-10.
Fins up, baby.
Fins up as well. The Saints go to the Giants, and they are 3.5-point favorites in New York.
The Saints. I will never pick the Giants again.
Yeah, I'm out on the Giants, too.
Yes, Saints. I'm not sure. I was in on the Giants when I said they were slightly less bad than their 2-5 record suggests. I think that's true. I think they were a 3-4 team. They're bad now.
I've been appealed so many times by the Giants being like +5 at home. Like, all right, maybe they'll step up, and they just never do. So I'm done.
We said it before. Seattle goes to Arizona. Arizona's a 2.5-point favorite. We're all picking Arizona in this one. Jack, you thinking a big win?
I like the Cards. I like the Cards to win by about a touchdown, 10 points.
Okay, Ziggy.
I'm taking the Cards to win. Sorry, Divine Comedy.
Yeah, I got the Cardinals as well. And look, hey, Seattle wins. As Ziggy said before, great spot to wind up hosting a playoff game.
Seattle, great salmon, great coffee too. Great salmon, and great coffee.
All right. You know what?
Why you laugh at that?
No, you know what? I almost said I said great football, and then I was about to say, hey, the Oregon Ducks, and I went, that's a different state. It's a different state.
Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, Pacific Northwest.
Huskies were great last year.
That's the same.
Yeah,
region.
they were. Anyone listening, you rewind and hear me about to say Oregon, they go, just shut up. The Bears go to the 49ers. We all have San Francisco. Buffalo going to the Rams. Only a 4.5-point favorite are the Bills.
Oh yeah, I got Buffalo. The Rams kind of showed me who they are against good teams when they hosted Philly and got murdered. That was only a 2-point spread also. I got Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm taking Buffalo. I think this Bills team is hot.
I like Buffalo covering the spread too in this one. The Chargers.
I think Josh Allen's.
Yeah. So what?
I think Josh Allen's hot.
I'll
say it.
Oh, damn.
He is. He's red hot.
Damn.
Yeah, and he's got the long hair going. He's got the flow. Yeah, Josh Allen. Josh Allen's on some pretty high highs right now.
Just got engaged.
I mean, crazy snow game.
Josh Allen's jersey would look great on my bedroom floor.
Jeez.
You only get that here at the Paul Farrington.
Los Angeles Chargers at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites.
The Chiefs will win like 20-18, so they won't cover it. They'll win.
Well, they have like a game-winning safety.
Yeah, something stupid. Chiefs.
Chargers +4. The Chiefs luck runs out. I'm taking the Chargers. I'm done with this Chiefs team. I'm not picking them again until they lose.
That might be a dumb decision, but yeah, I'm going with the Chiefs. In Arrowhead against the Chargers, that's absolutely. Hey, if there's one way for Jim Harbaugh to really make his impact on this first season beyond what he's already done, which has been great, why don't you go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs? That's a game that the Chargers almost always find a way.
Chiefs should be 6-6.
They should be much worse than their record.
Like, truly.
And then the Bengals go to the Cowboys as 5.5-point favorites. I like Cincinnati -5.5 as well. I think that's one of the best bets of the week.
Yeah.
I mean, that defense is horrible.
It is. I just think Dallas is just dead like the Jets. I got the Bengals.
Yeah, this game was supposed to be moved away from Monday Night Football, but they couldn't because of all the Simpsons art packages they made. Yeah, this is a disaster of a game, but I'm taking Cincinnati all day.
The Bengals -5.5, Bills -4.5. What else is there? Saints -3.5. San Francisco -3.5. That might be a nice 4-teamer right there.
I love San Francisco. That's the pick. It's like you're right on with that one.
I can see the Bears being like, I like San Francisco as well. I really do. But the Bears have been tough.
I also do love the Steelers. Minus the under. I think they're going to blow out the Browns this week.
Touch that. No, I don't touch AFC North.
No, I know AFC North and nobody else does. This will be a brutal AFC North.
Well, there you have it. The Week 14 preview show. Our picks are in. A little zigger zag. Some NFL predictions where the playoff seedings are right now. And a Seahawks-Cardinals preview. If you had told me back in Week 1 that in Week 14 the sole preview show would be of the Week 14 preview would be Seahawks and Cardinals, I probably
that's only because Lions Packers is on it.
It's funny though, while the Bengals and Cowboys play in primetime, the main focus here is Seahawks-Cardinals. Yeah.
But that's it. There's no conference championship cap.
Oh, well, actually, I mean, here's something I actually wanted to ask you guys. If we're gonna real quickly mention college football, did you guys like Alabama getting in?
The rules are always different for Alabama. It's ridiculous.
I mean, yeah, I'd rather see them in than out. I don't think that any one of those teams on the cusp are better than they are. So I think to put them at 11 is justifiable.
Well, this is a benefit of this format, right? With the old format back in the olden days, because Bama could never be left out, if there was a remotely plausible case, that meant they were taking one of 4 spots just automatically if they were a decent Bama team. Them taking like the 11 or 12 spot, I think, is a lot less heinous. I still don't really like it. I still don't feel like they earned it. I'd rather see Ole Miss. I feel like there's no consistent story you can tell, like no criterion you can give where Bama should be in. I feel like there's a variety of other teams you could pick. But if we're going to do the thing where Bama has to go in no matter what, at least they're 1 of 12 rather than 1 of 4.
Well, you know, the criteria is they beat Georgia, they beat Missouri, they beat South Carolina. The South Carolina angle, like, look, I know South Carolina fans were really pissed, but you lost to Ole Miss, you lost to Alabama. Like, that is and I know that you were on the road for the Bama, like, you're on the road in those games, but you lost them. I mean, the head-to-head meant something there.
I mean, here's the thing. I feel like Ole Miss, Alabama's a toss-up, similar resume. Both have wins over Georgia. Both have wins over Carolina. It comes down to, right now it's currently Alabama at Notre Dame. Would more people watch that or Ole Miss Notre Dame?
Or Miami Notre Dame, too? That would get some eyes.
But I think they stink.
Miami?
I think it comes down to Bama or Ole Miss.
Oh, yeah. Well, the whole thing is, and I think that, look, I'm a Notre Dame fan. When I looked at the 4 teams that were being considered, Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Miami, who do I not want to play? Alabama is the easy answer to me. And that makes me think that despite having one more loss than the Hurricanes, you know, I think that's probably the right choice. Alabama has better wins than the Hurricanes. They have bad losses, but most people agree you'd rather face Miami than Alabama in that game, which makes me think Alabama's probably the right call.
You talk about bad losses, though. I'd really only say it's Oklahoma.
Horrible loss.
They lost at Tennessee, and then
at Vandy.
They lost at Vandy, which is not a loss. But look at Miami. I mean, Georgia Tech and Cuse.
I mean, Syracuse is ranked. They're 9-3.
Yeah, but Syracuse would lose all 3 teams Bama lost to.
Probably, but you have a ranked loss, and then you have
who's better?
Georgia Tech just went to overtime with Georgia 8 times.
Georgia Tech got spanked by Virginia Tech. That good says all you need to know. Who's better, Bama or Miami? Alabama.
I think the ceiling for Alabama. Ziggy laughed at me. I said I think the Bama ceiling is a national championship.
I mean, Alabama. They're going to beat Notre Dame, beat SMU. You know their path is Notre Dame, SMU. Bama will be in the Final Four.
They're not going to.
Bama's like their schedules are. We lost 3 games, and yet we get to play Notre Dame and SMU.
Do I, as a Notre Dame fan, do I want to get Alabama for the hype of that game, like go watch that game in Notre Dame Stadium, or do I want to have Arizona State and just
Arizona State? You want to win?
Yeah.
Yes.
You don't play to win the hype. You play to win the game.
Or, beating Alabama would be pretty damn sweet.
No, the 5 is going to be Penn State, and they'll host ASU, win by like 50.
Should Penn State fall if Oregon beats them?
Depends how bad they beat them.
38-10.
Yes.
Good.
I don't think they should fall a lot, but I think Notre Dame should be ranked ahead of them anyway, because I think our records and schedules are basically the same, except we dominated our common opponents.
If Penn State goes and plays a field goal game with Oregon, though,
then they deserve to be ahead of us. No question about it.
Would you go, and last thing before we wrap up, would you go, let's say Clemson beats SMU, would you put Bama out, SMU in?
If SMU loses to Clemson?
Yes. Is Bama out, SMU stays in? I'm just not a fan of the ACC. Like, I don't really think that SMU's beaten anybody, but the whole point of this 12-team format was to get teams like this in. So SMU only having 1 loss in their Power 4 conference championship, you have to have
compared to Bama's 3. Yes, if I'm a Bama fan, I'm rooting for SMU in this game pretty hard.
Oh yeah, you have to.
So yeah, I'd put SMU in with a loss over Alabama. Yeah, I would. They wouldn't, but I think that I.
Oh no, you think the committee? I think the committee would put in SMU.
I don't know. I would. I don't know if they would.
I think it is ridiculous that you've got Ward Manuel coming out saying that if you're not playing this weekend, you're not getting re-ranked. after he came out and said a few weeks ago that losing in the conference championship games won't hurt you.
I know.
Like, I think it's ridiculous that like
it's so
if your
dumb.
losses look much better, or like if you don't re-rank the teams because you take a close look and decide nothing's changed, fine. But like there's a chance that some of these wins either look substantially better or substantially worse after this weekend.
Wait, how about
to sit back and pretend that like there's no point in re-ranking anyone if they're not playing is crazy.
Like, yeah, here's the thing. It's like Bama didn't make the SEC championship game. If like you right now have SMU as the number 3 seed in the playoff, if they go and they lose a game to Clemson by 6 points, how on earth are they not in the playoff?
Do you I'd be shocked. It would set a horrible precedent if they kicked out SMU. If they lost, if they lose like 60-0,
right? It's different.
Changes things.
Yeah, if they're blown out, sure. But the fact that you come out and say that, like, if you're not playing, you can't change no matter.
I thought that was ridiculous.
There's no reason to say something like that.
I mean, SMU, that's the conference chip cap of the week for me.
And
I think SMU kills Clemson. Yeah,
the last one I wanted to ask you guys, because a couple people were debating this with me earlier. If Boise State loses to UNLV, there's no world the committee keeps them in, right?
Nope.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. A couple people were saying that they thought there was a chance. I think they are so far gone.
I think
if Boise State had beaten Oregon, they would have a chance.
Oh,
that's it.
If they were undefeated, I think they could. But yeah, without any real wins, and then losing to UNLV, and Bama's the team you'd be letting in.
No, I mean, Boise State has played who's ahead of them, and that's fine. And this format lets teams like that get in. But of their 4 most recent games, 2 of them are 1-score wins against Nevada and Wyoming. And the others are 3-score wins against San Jose State and Oregon State. You beat Hawaii on the road. Great job, guys. You beat UNLV on the road. That's their only interesting win. And it's just been avenged. Like Oregon week 2, different team. Obviously, they were still good. But remember, that was when that Oregon team was coming off that close game against Idaho, right?
Yeah.
Oregon was not who they were at the start of the season. You can't say that you get to make the playoffs because you lost close to a good team and nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this format too, and I guess after this we'll wrap up, but like this format will let some of those teams in. Like a team like Indiana, who in a 4-team playoff probably doesn't make it, but they're going to make it now.
Definitely doesn't.
A team like SMU, if they lose to Clemson, I would hope they are probably in, whereas 4-team playoff, no chance. But it can't let every single one of these teams in. Like, yeah, there has to come a point where you look at Boise State and truly who they've played, where if they lose their conference championship, it's more justifiable leaving them out than SMU.
Yep. I agree. All right, there you go. The Week 14 preview, plus a little college football at the end. So for anyone who enjoys college football, hope you like it.
And if not, it's at the end, so you can just
skip it. Skip it.
Don't forget, if you've somehow made it this far, we will be going live right before the Packers-Lions game. What time we decide on?
6:45.
6:45, we will be live. So come on, show up. You know, this is the start of the big season for YouTube channels of the NFL, but we're always happy to have you all here. And if you made it this far, it means you're one of our biggest fans. So we'll probably recognize you.
Yep.
You show up, come into the chat, leave a couple comments. We'll have a good time.
Well done, Ziggy. We'll see you later.